The moment you became always available, you became invisible. Let me show you what I mean. There are two people in your life right now. One texts you, you respond within seconds. They call, you pick up immediately. They need something, you drop everything. The other person takes hours, sometimes days to reply. They're busy, they're selective, they don't always show up. Now tell me, which one occupies more space in your mind? Which one do you think about when they're not around? Which one holds power in that dynamic? You already know the answer, and that's the problem. You've become the first person to everyone else, and it's destroying you. Here's the paradox nobody wants to admit. Your generosity, your availability, your eagerness to be there for everyone, it's not making you loved. It's making you invisible. It's making you furniture. You've become so predictable, so accessible, so reliably present that you've lost the one thing that makes humans valuable in the eyes of others. Scarcity. You're everywhere, which means you're nowhere that matters. You're everyone's option, which means you're nobody's priority. Let me diagnose what's happening to you, and be honest as I describe these symptoms, because recognition is the first step to reclaiming your power. Symptom 1. Instant responses equals 0 mystery. Every text gets answered immediately. Every call gets returned within the hour. Every question receives an eager reply. You think you're being respectful, being reliable, being a good person. What you're actually doing is training everyone around you that you have nothing more important than them, that your time has no competing demands, that you're sitting around waiting for their attention. Mystery dies the moment predictability enters. When people know exactly how you'll respond and exactly when you'll respond, they stop wondering about you. And when they stop wondering, they stop valuing. Symptom 2. Constant presence equals 0 scarcity. You're at every gathering, you're available every weekend, you never miss a group chat message, you're always down to help, always ready to show up, always there. Sounds admirable, doesn't it? It's not. It's strategic suicide. The economic principle of supply and demand doesn't stop applying just because we're talking about human relationships instead of commodities. When supply is infinite, value crashes. Your constant presence has flooded the market with you. You're not rare anymore. You're not special, you're just there like air, like background noise. Necessary perhaps, but unremarkable, unvalued. Symptom 3. Eager compliance equals 0 respect. Someone asks for a favor, you say yes before they finish the sentence. Someone suggests plans, you rearrange your schedule to accommodate theirs. Someone needs something, you volunteer before they even have to ask. You think this makes you indispensable. It makes you a tool. It makes you the person people use, not the person people respect. Respect is only given to those who demonstrate they have a choice and sometimes choose differently. When you never say no, your yes becomes worthless. When you never prioritize yourself, others won't prioritize you either. I watched this happen to someone, a colleague who prided himself on being the most helpful person in the office. Always available for questions, always willing to take on extra work, always responding to emails at midnight. Within 6 months, he was the most taken advantage of person in the company. His ideas got credited to others. His time got volunteered by his manager without asking him. His career stagnated while less competent but more selective people got promoted. Why? Because he taught everyone that his time was free, that his boundaries were non-existent, that his presence was guaranteed. He became invisible through his visibility. He lost all leverage through his availability. Machiavelli understood this 5 centuries ago when he observed the courts of Renaissance Italy. He watched princes who made themselves too accessible to their subjects, who kept open doors, who tried to be everyone's friend. And he watched those princes lose their thrones. Not because they were cruel or incompetent, but because familiarity bred contempt. The more available these rulers made themselves, the less their subjects feared them. The less they were feared, the less they were respected. The less they were respected, the less they were obeyed. Accessibility became their downfall. The principle Machiavelli identified as brutal in its simplicity. Familiarity breeds contempt, not sometimes, always. The more people have access to you, the less they value that access. The more they see of you, the less impressive you become. The more predictable you are, the less interesting you remain. This isn't cynicism. This is human nature, observed and documented across centuries. We desire what's difficult to obtain. We dismiss what comes easily. We treasure what's rare. We discard what's abundant. Translate this to your modern life, and the conclusion is inescapable. Your availability is the enemy of your value. Every time you make yourself instantly accessible, you decrease your worth in the eyes of others. Every time you prioritize someone else's schedule over your own, you communicate that your time is less valuable than theirs. Every time you're always there, you guarantee that when you're not there, nobody notices. You've become the person everyone expects to show up, which means you've become the person nobody appreciates when you do. Your presence has become your prison, and your availability has become your chains. You became over-available because somewhere deep in your psyche, you believed a lie. The lie whispered to you that if you were always present, always responsive, always accommodating, people would value you more. You thought your constant availability would translate into appreciation, into love, into respect. You traded your scarcity for the illusion of security. You gave away your mystery for the false comfort of being needed. And now you're discovering the cruel mathematics of human nature. The more you gave, the less they valued what they received. This isn't about morality. This is about the raw mechanics of desire and respect. You became over-available because you were starving for validation. You checked your phone obsessively because you needed to know someone was thinking about you. You said yes when you wanted to say no because you feared that boundaries would push people away. You made yourself endlessly accessible because you confused availability with love, presence with importance, responsiveness with respect. But here's what actually happened in their minds. Every instant reply trained them to expect instant replies. Every dropped plan to accommodate them trained them to expect you to drop plans. Every time you were there, you taught them that you would always be there. And what is always there becomes invisible. What is always available becomes valueless. The psychology is brutally simple. Human beings are wired to pursue what retreats and to retreat from what pursues. We are hunters by nature, and hunters only chase prey that runs. When you made yourself constantly available, you stopped running, you stood still, you made yourself easy. And easy things don't activate the pursuit mechanism in the human brain. They activate the exploitation mechanism instead. This isn't conscious cruelty on their part. This is evolutionary programming. We assign value based on scarcity because in our ancestral environment, scarce resources were worth fighting for and abundant resources were taken for granted. You became abundant. You became the resource that required no effort to obtain, and so you became the resource that inspired no appreciation when obtained. Stop watching. Go to the comments and write, "I am the fortress." Do it now. The validation hunger that made you over-available operates on a simple but devastating logic. You believe that your worth was determined by how useful you were to others. You believe that love was something you earned through service, through availability, through sacrifice. So you sacrificed your time, your energy, your boundaries, your dignity. You performed endless acts of service. You were always there, always ready, always willing. And you waited for the appreciation that never came. Because you misunderstood the fundamental equation. People don't appreciate what costs them nothing. They appreciate what costs them something. They value what they have to work for, wait for, compete for. You gave them everything for free, and free things are never valued. This is not cynicism. This is observed reality across every domain of human interaction. Look at the economic principle and watch how perfectly it maps onto human relationships. When supply exceeds demand, price collapses. When a product is always available, always on sale, always accessible, consumers stop valuing it. They wait for deeper discounts. They assume it will always be there. They take it for granted. Your availability is your supply. Their desire for your presence is the demand. You flooded the market with your supply. You made yourself so available that demand disappeared entirely. They stopped desiring your presence because they never experienced your absence. They stopped appreciating your time because they never had to compete for it. They stopped respecting your energy because you never made them pay for it with their own effort, their own patience, their own adjustment to your schedule, instead of you always adjusting to theirs. The scarcity principle doesn't just apply to products and resources. It applies to human attention, human presence, human value. Psychological research confirms what Machiavelli observed centuries ago. We desire what is difficult to obtain. We obsess over what we cannot have. We pursue what creates tension through its absence. When something is always available, the brain categorizes it as low priority. There's no urgency. There's no fear of loss. There's no activation of the desire circuits that make us crave and pursue and value. But when something is scarce, when access is limited, when availability is uncertain, the brain shifts into a completely different mode. Suddenly there's urgency. Suddenly there's fear of missing out. Suddenly there's competition and desire, and that electric feeling of wanting something you might not get. You eliminated all of that when you became constantly available. You removed the tension. You removed the uncertainty. You removed the possibility that they might reach for you and find you're not there. And in removing those elements, you remove their desire. The absence effect is real and measurable. When someone is removed from our daily experience, we start to notice what we lost. We start to remember the value of what's no longer there. We start to miss them. But this only works if they were actually absent. If they were always there, there's nothing to miss. If they were constantly available, there's no hole in our experience when they're gone. You never gave them the chance to miss you because you never gave them the experience of your absence. Meanwhile, you paid the presence penalty. Every additional hour you were available decreased the value of the next hour. Every additional instant response made the next instant response less impressive. Every time you rearranged your life to accommodate theirs, you trained them to expect that accommodation as the baseline. You didn't build appreciation through constant presence. You built entitlement. You didn't create gratitude through endless availability. You created expectation. And expectations once set become invisible. People don't appreciate what meets their expectations. They only notice what exceeds them or falls short of them. You met their expectations so consistently that you became invisible in your reliability. Now we arrive at the respect equation, and this is where the truth becomes most uncomfortable. People only respect what costs them something. This isn't about whether they're good people or bad people. This is about how the human mind assigns value. Effort equals value in the psychological marketplace. When someone has to work to get your time, that time becomes valuable. When they have to wait for your response, that response becomes significant. When they have to adjust their schedule to yours, your schedule becomes important. But when you do all the work, all the waiting, all the adjusting, you communicate that their time is more valuable than yours. You communicate that their convenience matters more than your boundaries. You communicate that you are the supplicant and they are the priority. Look at every person who commands genuine respect in your life. Look at leaders. Look at influencers. Look at the people everyone wants access to. What do they have in common? They're not constantly available. They don't respond instantly to every message. They don't rearrange their entire lives to accommodate everyone else's schedule. They maintain boundaries. They create scarcity. They make their time valuable by making it limited. They make their attention significant by making it selective. And because of this, when they do give you their time, when they do respond, when they do show up, it means something. It carries weight. It feels like a victory rather than an entitlement. Your accessibility is inversely proportional to your influence. This is the dark reality you need to accept. The more available you are, the less influential you become. The more accessible you make yourself, the less people value that access. The more you prioritize others over yourself, the less they respect your priorities. This isn't fair. This isn't how it should be in an ideal world. But we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a world where human psychology operates according to specific patterns, and those patterns reward scarcity and punish abundance. You can rage against this reality, or you can use it. You can continue being overavailable and watch your value continue to decline. Or you can start creating strategic scarcity and watch your value rise. The calculated withdrawal is not about disappearing completely. It's about creating productive tension through selective unavailability. It's about making people wonder where you are, instead of knowing you're always there. It's about timing your presence for maximum impact rather than maintaining constant low-level presence that nobody notices. The 70-30 rule is your first tactical implementation. Be present 70% less than you want to be. Your instinct will scream at you to reach out, to respond, to engage. Ignore it. That instinct is the same one that destroyed your value in the first place. When you feel the urge to text back immediately, to accept that invitation instantly, to make yourself available for that meeting, you wait, you calculate. You ask yourself not whether you can be available, but whether you should be. Most of the time, the answer is no. Your presence should be an event, not a constant state. When you show up, it should mean something. When you respond, it should carry weight. This only happens when your absence is the default and your presence is the exception. Now we move to the delayed response, the second law of strategic unavailability. Every time you respond immediately, you train people to expect immediate responses. You condition them to believe they have unlimited access to you. You destroy the frame. The frame is everything. The frame is who adjusts to whom. The frame is who waits for whom. The frame is who values whose time more. When you respond instantly, you communicate that their time is more valuable than yours, that their needs supersede your boundaries, that you have nothing more important than attending to them. This is how you become a servant instead of a sovereign in your own life. The power pause is your reclamation of the frame. It's the deliberate insertion of friction between their demand and your supply. It makes your attention valuable because it's not freely given. It makes your time precious because it's not infinitely available. You need to understand the difference between urgency and importance. Most things that feel urgent are not important. Most things that demand immediate response don't deserve it. The world has trained you to react to the appearance of urgency, to jump when someone says jump, to respond when someone demands response. This is how they control you. This is how they keep you available. You break this conditioning by creating your own criteria for what deserves immediate attention. A true emergency, perhaps. Someone's manufactured crisis designed to manipulate your time? Never. Someone's lack of planning that they want to make you a problem? Absolutely not. You make others adjust to your schedule, not theirs. This is not cruelty. This is self-respect. This is the recognition that your time is the only non-renewable resource you possess, and giving it away freely is the fastest path to becoming worthless in others' eyes. The third law is selective accessibility, the creation of tiers. Not everyone deserves the same level of access to you. This is obvious in theory, but almost nobody implements it in practice. They treat the casual acquaintance with the same availability as the intimate friend. They give the random colleague the same access as the trusted ally. This is insane. This destroys the very concept of an inner circle. You must create tiers of access to your time and energy. There's the outer circle, those who get your minimal attention, your delayed responses, your polite but distant engagement. There's the middle circle, those who get more but still not everything, those who have proven some value but haven't earned full access. And there's the inner circle, the tiny group who have demonstrated through years of reciprocity and loyalty that they deserve your real availability. Even here, even with this select group, you maintain some boundaries. You never become fully available, even to those closest to you, because complete availability breeds complacency, even in the best relationships. Learning how to say no without saying no is the art form within this law. Direct rejection creates conflict and burns bridges. Strategic unavailability creates respect and maintains relationships. Instead of saying, no, I can't meet, you say, I'm completely locked in this month, but let's look at next month. Instead of saying, no, I won't help you, you say, I have extremely limited bandwidth right now, but here's a resource that might help. You're not available, but you're not hostile. You're not accessible, but you're not cruel. This is the sophistication that separates the Machiavellian strategist from the mere manipulator. The manipulator burns bridges and creates enemies. The strategist maintains optionality while protecting boundaries. Your yes must mean something, and it can only mean something if your no is real. If you say yes to everything, your yes becomes meaningless. If you never decline, never postpone, never create boundaries, then your agreement carries no weight. Your commitment signals no special favor. Your time indicates no particular value. The fourth law is mystique maintenance, the permanent preservation of the unknown. Even with strategic absence and delayed responses and selective accessibility, you can still make the mistake of full disclosure when you are present. This destroys the final layer of your power. You must keep parts of yourself permanently unavailable. Not just your time, but your thoughts, your plans, your full story. When someone asks what you've been up to, you don't give them the complete download of your last 3 weeks. You give them the interesting highlight and leave the rest mysterious. When someone asks about your plans, you don't lay out your entire strategy. You share the surface and keep the depth hidden. This is not dishonesty. This is strategic opacity. What they don't know makes you fascinating. What they can't fully understand makes you intriguing. What they can't predict makes you powerful. The power of the unknown and unexplained is that it keeps people thinking about you when you're not there. If they know everything about you, if you've shared every detail, if you've made yourself completely transparent, then you become boring. You become solved. You become a known quantity. There's no mystery left to unravel, no depth left to discover, no surprise left to experience. You become like a movie they've already seen, a book they've already read, a song they've heard too many times. But when you maintain mystique, when you keep significant parts of yourself hidden, when you never fully reveal your hand, you remain interesting. You remain worth pursuing. You remain valuable. People will create stories about what you're doing, theories about who you are, fantasies about what you might be thinking. This mental real estate you occupy in their minds is worth more than any amount of actual availability you could provide. Never fully revealing your hand applies to your intentions, your capabilities, your resources, and your limits. If they know exactly what you want, they can manipulate you by controlling access to it. If they know exactly what you can do, they can exploit you by demanding it. If they know exactly what you have, they can extract it. If they know exactly what your limits are, they can push you right up to them. Strategic opacity protects you on all these fronts. You keep your true desires hidden so you can't be leveraged. You keep your full capabilities concealed so you can't be exploited. You keep your resources private so they can't be claimed. You keep your actual limits ambiguous so they're never tested. Subscribe now to join the 1% who understand that power is not about what you give, but what you withhold. The elite implementation begins with the integration protocol, how to withdraw without burning bridges. You cannot go from completely available to completely absent overnight. This creates confusion, resentment, and damaged relationships. The transition must be gradual and strategic.